Thank you for the introduction. I'm really glad to be here celebrating the McDowell Foundation's 10th anniversary and the continuation of the spirit of Barbara McDowell's work. I'm a staff attorney at the National Center for Law and Economic Justice for more than 50 years, and CLAJ has worked at the intersection of civil rights with low-income families, individuals, communities, and organizations to advance economic justice around the country. We primarily pursue large-scale structural change via litigation, and the Foundation is one of the few funders in the country that understands the importance of impact litigation to social justice. NCLAJ, as Jerry said, has been fortunate to benefit from two forms of support from the McDowell Foundation. First, over the years, the Foundation has funded 3 of our cases, including a current case, Black Love Resists in the Rest versus City of Buffalo, a current case challenging the Buffalo Police Department's long-standing practice of discriminatorily using low-income communities of color as a revenue source via traffic checkpoints that are disproportionately placed in Black and Latinx neighborhoods. The Foundation and Drinker Biddle have also co-counseled 2 cases with NCLAJ. As Jerry said, most recently in February of this year, NCLAJ, the New Economy Project, Drinker Biddle, and the Foundation filed a class action against the New York City Transit Authority. The case challenges rampant due process violations by the Transit Authority in their effort to collect fees related to tickets for conduct violations on the subway, so things like turnstile jumping, taking up more than one seat, smoking, panhandling. People are issued tickets, and if they don't pay, the Transit Authority can seek a default judgment against them. If the judgment isn't paid, the state can seize their tax refunds. Except many people don't get notice of the ticket, notice of the default judgment. The first they hear of the problem is when their refund is seized, which for low-income people who often use their tax refunds to pay off debts or to pay for essential household items. Low-income people wait for their tax refunds all year. To lose their tax refund is catastrophic. Many people, the due process violations disproportionately impact low-income people, people of color, and homeless people, both due to discriminatory policing practices and simply because they're less likely to be able to pay the initial fines or the various fees that pile up throughout the debt collection process. So there's a fee when they seek the default judgment. There's a fee if you don't pay it. There's interest every year. New York State's statutory interest applies once the default judgment is issued. That's 9% every year. It really stacks up over time. In this case, we are up against a large and complex agency, and the partnership of the Foundation and Drinker Biddle is essential. As an attorney on this case, I've been deeply impressed by the quality of the lawyering from Drinker Biddle and the Foundation as we work together. And CLAJ could not be more grateful. So when we filed this case, we joined one of our named plaintiffs on New York One, a local news station in New York City, to discuss the case. We have that segment for you all to watch now, so you're going to get to watch me in person and on video at the same time. Thank you.
Some exclusive reporting for you. A new lawsuit has been filed against the New York City Transit Authority, alleging that the agency is enforcing judgments against riders and then seizing their tax refunds without their knowledge. The suit claims that many of these judgments are for transit infractions that happened decades ago, and that the Transit Authority's actions are negatively affecting low-income New Yorkers and violating their constitutional rights. I am joined now by David Evans. He's a Marine Corps veteran and a plaintiff in this case. Susan Shin is the legal director of the New Economy Project, and Katherine Deabler-Meadows is a staff attorney at the National Center for Law and Economic Justice. Thank you all for being here. And let me start with you, Mr. Evans. I read the details in the complaint, and I found it hard to believe. I'm sure many of my viewers would feel the same way. As I mentioned, you're a Marine veteran. You've been through some hard times. You've had a period when you were homeless. You've had a period as a delivery man. You're sort of trying to get back into the swing of things, and you find out that your account or your refunds are being taken away, your tax refunds that you're expecting, and you owe money to the MTA for something that happened when?
1999 was the last ticket, the earliest ticket that I have on record that they're deducting my taxes for, and they had no record. There's no record of the ticket being produced to me. I had no knowledge of any ticket that I received.
So you don't remember the incident that they're talking about, and they haven't shown you anything, giving you time and place and date, and saying you were smoking or whatever?
Nothing. It seems that they went to somewhere and they got a judgment against me to levy against my tax returns. My state tax returns have been deducted ever since I became back in the workforce. It's maybe 10 years now that they have been deducting my taxes, and I had no knowledge of what to do until I reached out to a New Economy Project, and they helped.
And MTA is saying you owe them how much now?
Well, right now, they last estimate, I think it was over $1,900 at this present moment. But when they first started deducting my taxes, I believe it was over $2,700 for tickets that were going back 20 years.
And that was like 10 different tickets or a whole bunch of different tickets?
At this present time, yes.
Okay, so now, Susan Shin, explain for me and for our viewers, how is it that seemingly ordinary consumer protections, right? Like if some credit card company or something says you owe them money from 20 years ago, they're gonna have a very hard time collecting that because people have the right to sort of move on with their lives and not be chased down. Is there something different at work here?
Well, it's actually pretty similar. The problems that we've seen with credit card collections, with the lack of documents that people have access to, when they're trying to challenge enforcement of these judgments, they're saying, what is this all about? Where's the information? And they try to get it, and if they don't get it, they should be able to stop that enforcement. What we're seeing with the MTA is that they're enforcing these very, very old judgments against people, taking their tax refunds, and then when people say, give us some documents, tell me what this is all about, I have no recollection,
Right.
They're not getting anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part about it, I can't quite get over that. You know, you're legit saying like, look, if I owe you the money, I'll pay you.
Yes, sir.
Just give me the time and place, explain to me, you know,
Yes, so let me
what
see
I owe.
the violation, what they call a notice of violation. I like to see that because at the time I was struggling, I found myself where my ID was no longer in my control, and this happened in more than one occasion. So I can't be certain. I may have a ticket or two, but I'm positive I don't have all those many tickets that
Right.
they're saying.
Right. And I mean, what
there's
you're
no way that I could defend myself.
What you're referring to is that in homeless shelters, you know, your ID may not be in your possession, they may have moved your stuff, other people can take them, it's a sort of a common problem. We'll leave that as another story for another night. So now tell me, what's the idea here? To have a class action lawsuit against the MTA? Was there a string of individual cases, and you realize it's like, look, there's too many of these, we're not getting anywhere, we need to sort of come in as a group? How did we get to this point?
So New Economy Project, which is one of 4 organizations that brought this lawsuit. It's my office, the National Center for Law and Economic Justice, the New Economy Project, Drinker, Biddle and Reith, which is a law firm, and the McDowell Foundation. We were all working together because New Economy Project was hearing from a lot of people on their financial justice hotline that they were having this problem, that they were getting, instead of getting their tax refund when they were expecting it, they were getting a letter telling them that their tax refund had been seized, and that when they tried to go to the MTA
Sure.
and try to figure out what happened, they weren't given any information, they weren't given any documents, they were told that they had to pay $10 per document if they wanted to see what limited records the MTA does have. And we were seeing enough people, and it was a big enough problem that it seemed like a class action was really the best answer.
Do you think the MTA is deriving a significant amount of revenue from these practices?
It's hard to say, but the dollar amounts are low. We're talking about tickets that it's, a couple $100s at most. Mr. Evans has a high total because they're saying that he has 10 tickets that he doesn't recall receiving.
Right.
But these are not large dollar amounts as far as the MTA is concerned. For individuals, it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing I don't quite understand is that, Mr. Evans is not necessarily, now he's lawyered up now, right? So they're not necessarily going to get that money out of him, but even just at the level of show the documentation, let's clear it up. If you owe it, you can pay it. If it's somebody else, if it's mistaken identity or identity theft, go after the person who actually owes you the money if it's all that important after 20 years.
After 20 years.
So why don't they just do that?
We don't know. That's why we're trying to find out through this lawsuit. Right now, what we're seeing is that the MTA is acting as cop, prosecutor, judge, jury, and debt collector all at once. They're issuing these tickets, they're enforcing these judgments, they go after people for money, but they're not telling people what they're about. These are really old violations that we're seeing with Mr. Evans and as well as our other plaintiff, Nathaniel Robinson.
Doing what you just described, you're making the case in this lawsuit that it's a violation of due process, that it's a violation of the Constitution, that you can't do these things. You have to give people a fair chance to contest before you go ahead and take their property or seize their tax.
Exactly. It's as if someone came up to you, Earl, on the street and said, you owe me money for this thing you did, and you say, I have no recollection, give me some documents, give me some information, and say, no, I don't have to, I'm just going to keep taking the money from you.
Right.
And if I can just say, the people that we've heard from this problem, they have all been low-income New Yorkers, all people of color, many of them homeless and formerly homeless. So these are the people we're talking about who are being the most harmed by MTA's practices.
And there's no like criminal justice or broken windows rationale or justification behind this?
No, I mean, this is what we're talking about here is people should be able to know why their money is being taken.
Right.
There's no justification for taking people's money without any documentation, without any justification, without giving them any opportunity to defend themselves.